All right. So I did a video on this earlier. It was a garbage video. I admit it. That's why I took it down. Plus, I talked about a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter. I was asked about this rig here, and I figured I might as well do a better version of it. Because the version I did earlier, I talked about the stuff I needed to do to it, so I went ahead and got the stuff and did some changes, and I'm going to show it to you. And I kind of loaded it up. But this is how I wear this thing. This is an Occidental Leathers setup here. Occidental Leathers. So I've had this thing since the 90s. I don't think it's been quite 30 years, but pretty damn near close to it. It's not a perfect setup. You do have to modify this stuff from time to time. And you also have to repair it. So I just went through a bunch of repairs on this thing. The main repair was this tape holder. I've repaired it twice in the past and it's been broken. I wear my headphones here. You guys know I've got tinnitus. It's kind of a big deal. And so every time I'm about to use a power tool, I put my headphones on. All right? Got to do that. If I don't do that and I expose myself to a loud power tool, my ears will ring even louder for a couple weeks, and it's friggin' horrendous. So this tape measure holder here, I just fixed it so it's a little snug. All right, so 30 foot, all the 25 or 30 foot Stanley tape in here, no problem. Well, you'll notice these two new copper rivets here. The rivets that come with it blew out. It really pissed me off. And like I said, I fixed it twice with Chicago screws, and they didn't hold. They blew out. So what I ended up doing here, well, these tools in it, it's going to be hard to show you now. You should be able to see in here. I went ahead and put some big, thick... Got some leather behind here now. That'll hold it. And then on the back, this is what a Chicago screw is. Right here. So that's a male and female screws together, and I replaced this one with a rivet. So this thing's got some weight to it. It's not fully loaded right now. Before I put it back on, let me tell you why I went with this system. Back when I was in the Marines, we had this stuff, the LBE load-bearing equipment, and the Alice system, and this was it. Now, this is not the one I had when I was in the Corps. The one I had, this is an H strap. The one I had was a Y, so it went from here to here to a single point, single strap, and then that split off. I don't know where I found this, but this is what we wore. And when I got out, or when I was getting out, I went to the supply guy and I said, hey man, I'd like to keep some of my gear. He goes, well, how much do you want to keep? I said, all of it. And he was the kind of guy, like, you just bribe him with a 6-pack of Coca-Cola. So we got two M16 pouches here. These are later. These came after I got out. These are modern canteen covers, but you can use them for anything. And just a big pack back here. It's unimportant what's on here now. When I got out, I took this setup and I took 2 leather carpenter bags and I put one on each side, and that was my system for framing houses. And for years, you know, building new home construction, framing, remodeling, additions, all of that. And it was pretty cool. It's funny, I mentioned this in the other video, which I took down already, but I still have muscle memory from putting my tools back away the way I did in the old tool bags. It's funny because that setup that you saw me wearing wasn't set up to do that. I just made it so it does that after all these years. So what I just did was I fixed that. You just saw that. I fixed this. Then I went ahead and I made this work. So back here, this piece of leather here wasn't wide enough at the bottom the way they riveted. It had a wedge to it. So I removed one of the rivets, put another copper one in, and now my square fits in here, which is great because way back in the day when I was framing houses, that's where I put it. And now I can grab my square without looking, and I can put it away really I should be able to put it away without looking. I can find that spot and slide it right back in there. So that's pretty cool. I also put a little patch on here, Mike Z Design logo. I just did that. A lot harder for somebody to want to steal this now. Again, this is not loaded necessarily the way I would load it for any particular job. I just threw a bunch of stuff in it right now so you guys can see it. Occidental Leather, they have a website. Look it up. I don't know what they have available. I did look at it like maybe 2 weeks ago because I was wearing this on the job. And with that one Chicago screw missing, it was sliding all over the place. It was a friggin' disaster. That's why I decided to fix it. But from what I understand, I think these are over $800 now. It is crazy what they get for it, because when I bought this system, I think this was I'm sure it was under $200. I think it was around 185 bucks maybe, which was a lot of money to spend on something like this in the 90s. I mean, with what they've done to our economy now, $185 in 1995 is like $5,000 today. Now, this is the Makita. This is the subcompact. I like using these because they're smaller than the full-size blue ones, but they have the same power. 18-volt battery. I could put the big battery in, but I like to run it with the smaller ones. Still 18 volts. This is just a 2 amp hour. The big ones are 5 amp hours, so they last longer, but they still have the same power. Got the clip here. Boom. You're done. Now, it's a problem. I'm right-handed, so getting the hammer out, right? This is the trick back in the day. Woo. So when I'm going to get that could be a hassle, but I could be running this on this side if I wanted to. It's not that big of a deal. If I have more weight from screws and such on this side, I can always run this to kind of balance it out. I did do a tip. Here we go. This is perfect. For the screws in here, if you want to, these Tagliente containers are great because you can have these full of different size fasteners. Then when you want to use it, just go ahead and stick this in here, and it makes your life a little bit easier. I think you guys could see that. Yeah, so there was well, hang on, don't go anywhere. Okay, I walked away from the screen because I wanted to grab this piece of leather here. And inside this pouch, I guess I got to take this off. I should have left the tools out, talked about all this, then loaded it up, but I don't know, it might have been a kooky video. This piece of leather here, you might be able to see right here the fresh cut. This was attached, it was just flopping in the wind inside this pouch. The problem with that was it was blocking this pouch here where you see that I have my mat knife. I could never use that pocket before. 30 years. I finally decided to modify this and make it better. I don't know what the intention of that is, but no bueno. So, what else? Oh, hang on. Well, I can grab it right here. One of the things I added is this thing here, which is real cool. Because when I was working in the film business, I was always using like a silver Sharpie because there was a lot of black. And it's a great place to keep your Sharpie. Gold in there. That doesn't come with this setup, obviously. There's not a lot to say, really. It's got plenty of pockets for your tools. There's leather. There's cordura. You know, I mean, it's a typical setup. But it's pretty heavy duty. And the big thing is it doesn't have a belt that goes around your waist. It has just this small section of belt here that's adjustable. That adjustment adjusts how close together these come on the front of yourself. And I like to have them out to the sides because I like to belly up to the table when I'm working. So I bought this when I was in the film business. And I was using that military system. I might have had that out here, and then I think what I did was I was using that when I first started in the movie business, and then I think I sent it to my buddy after I bought this, my pal back in Jersey, because I know he's got it. The last time I was there and I saw him, he had it hanging in his garage, and he still uses it all these years later. And that setup I was using was from the 1980s. So the idea is that it's just comfortable, right? All your tools are hanging off your shoulders instead of being hung on your waist. That's all it is. There's not a whole lot to talk about with this. It's got a nice heavy-duty belt loop on it. You know, I'm sorry, I said belt loop, but hammer loop. And it's got a spot for just about everything you need. Right here, you can fit a triangle square through here, which I rarely use. I used to have one, I probably still have it, where it was a triangle square, and then it had that adjustment on the bottom that you can adjust so you could set angles with it. It was pretty nice. For the most part, I've always used this style. And again, I love that. I could reach back there and put it away without having to look. Before I did that today, I was putting it back here. And the problem with that was I had to look for it back here. I had to look every time I wanted to put it away. And when you're up on a ladder or something, that's a hassle. So, Occidental leathers. This is a vintage setup. You know, I was on my buddy Steve caught me on this television show once. Talked about it earlier. I think there's only about 80 people that saw that video before I took it down, so I guess I can repeat some of this. I was on a TV show back in the 2000s called Monster House. It was one of the few shows I think it was set up to fail on purpose. I should do a video on that sometime. And why am I telling you this? There was a purpose for it with this rig. Oh, just that my friends saw it. They had never seen a rig like this before. And from what I was told, I looked like the most professional guy on that particular episode. And it was a horrible, horrible episode, man. But I think one of my first videos, one of the early ones, I think there's a Monster House teaser that I might have posted up on my YouTube channel. And you can look for it. And if you look at that, you'll see me wearing this rig. And there's pictures of me wearing this going all the way back to the 1990s. So that's what it is. It's the Occidental suspender system. If you go to their website, you'll see that they sell all the stuff separately. I think just the shoulder harness is like $350 or something. I'm not kidding. It's over the top. But it's probably about the most comfortable setup you can go with. Now, I recommend, if this looks good to you, go to your Army Navy store, go on eBay, look for this setup. All you need is the suspenders and the cartridge belt. Buy yourself a couple leather tool pouches, set that up, and you basically have the same thing. And then if that works for you and you start doing well and you save your shekels, then you could buy a setup like this. Because this is a lot more comfortable than that. These suspenders, this system, this padding, way more comfortable than that. And I believe they even sell like a sheepskin pad for this too, if it gets to be too much. I will say, I've had issues in the past where I'm working and it's maybe a little bit more of a dirty environment and I'm carrying more weight on my shoulders all day. I've had a tendency to break out here, you know, like pimples and whatnot, just from this rubbing all day long and sweating and having that rub up against you. It's a hassle. You'll see here, there's a metal hook. So when I was in the film business, I had a big old toolbox that I made. It was a big, you've seen it before on the channel. I brought it to Arizona, but it's a big plywood box. You open it up, and it's got all cubbies and some drawers, and I had my full tool set, just so you understand. I came out here, I started designing and building sets for theater, and I got mentioned. My name was mentioned in LA Times, the LA Weekly, the Hollywood Reporter, a bunch of little papers about plays that I had designed, and it wasn't about me. I was just mentioned all the time because I did such a good job. And the people who got me involved in that, through them I met other people, and that's how I got into the movie business. And I rapidly worked my way up from, really after the first job, where you're just a set carpenter. Those guys are just building flats. All a flat is a wall made out of 1x3 skinned with 1/4-inch luan, and then you construct a set out of it. You know, maybe you put windows in and you trim it out and hang some doors or something like that. But I obviously had more skill because I came from the real world, and I quickly became on-set carpenter, prop maker. So two different things there. I worked my way up to prop maker, and then I became the on-set carpenter a lot. On-set carpenter's fun. You're working with the talent and everything. It's a little tedious, long hours. People are crazy. It's this business. But you change out squib walls. That's where like they shoot guns and pop, pop, pop. You see all that happening. fix things that need to get fixed, adjust something real quick on the fly. They just need to have a carpenter there all the time. And then the better part was the prop maker thing. And so I would show up, and I had that big toolbox. I had it on a dolly, and I would deliver that with my truck. And then sometimes I ride the motorcycle there. But that was my setup. I'd build my own table, go off in a corner, and nobody talks to you. Everybody leaves you alone, because your job is to make the props that play on camera. So anything that's going to be a tight shot that they're going to use, and maybe, well, I told the story. So I did the reshoots on a film called Restoration, Robert Downey Jr., Meg Ryan, Sam Neill, in, I think that was around 96. And when you do reshoots, the film's already shot, the credits are already done, all of it's done. Sometimes they screen the movie, and based on the interviews, they decide to reshoot certain scenes, or a producer or whoever, they decide they need more footage shot to put in to make the story better, whatever it is. And so my job was to watch the movie and then duplicate the things I needed to duplicate for the shots that they needed. So I made a horse stall that Meg Ryan sat in for some close-up shots, and that had to match perfect. There's a scene where Robert Downey Jr. breaks through. There's a bunch of boards blocking off this hallway corridor thing where they put all the people that were quarantined because they had the plague. And he takes like a shovel or a pitchfork or something. He breaks through these breakaway boards. You see the dust fly out and everything. That's me. I made all those breakaway boards. I spent a week making coffins for a scene where he's talking to somebody and they're walking past all these dead people and these coffins and everything. I made all those coffins. My name's not in the credits. None of us that worked on that, none of our names are in the credits. But I took pictures of that job so I can prove I did it. The bummer about that job was that's where I blew my ankle out. I did a lot of damage to my legs, ankles when I was in the Corps. That's how I got out. And then here it was, 8 years later, and I'm working on a movie set, and I was working on that show. It was a couple weeks of work. And I just stepped down off something, and there was an audible pop. It sounded like a gunshot. And what was left of one of my tendons, or ligaments rather, just blew out. I went down, and it was really, really painful. So they took me to the hospital and everything, and that led to 4 years of not being able to work, and I had 3 ankle scopes and a ligament reconstruction. It was a friggin' disaster. I was on disability and everything at the time, so it was okay. That was the time where, when I could walk between surgeries, I built up my old basement shop where I live and started taking on small projects. It's about the time I met these people, like 4 years after that, approximately. And it was an interesting time. I will say, that was the time when Robert Downey Jr. wasn't doing great. He was having his issues with drugs and whatnot. I felt bad for the guy because they brought me back on set. Everybody felt so bad that I got hurt that they wanted to treat me. They wanted me to watch the filming of his scenes, and then they wanted him to meet me, and he didn't want to. I remember him looking over, and he wasn't interested. But he had this entourage of people around him, and it was really interesting to watch because, he was in a weird headspace because of the people he had around him. And anybody else not part of his world could see it from a mile away. If he just made some remark, everybody laughed. I don't think he could understand what reality was at that time. Just a side note, I'm happy to see where he's at today. So, anyhow. That's it. So I wore this through the 90s, through the film business, building, and everything else ever since then. I just don't like wearing tools all the time. I made an apron. Don't go anywhere. I'm coming back. And I designed this apron, because I'm just working in the shop building furniture. So I went from wearing, 20 to 30 pounds at any given time here with all these tools to just wearing a nice lightweight apron, with just what I need in it, which isn't much. Pencils, square, tape measure. The design here is, it's pretty important. This is a prototype here, but you'll see these pockets. You'll see there's nothing in the front. This way I can belly up to the table, so I can belly up to the workbench, work with nothing in my way. When you see an apron that has a pocket here that's open, it's a terrible idea for a wood shop, especially if you're using any kind of tool that's throwing dust back at you, because it just fills up with dust. So I stitched the pockets here so you can feed this way, and this keeps the dust from falling into these pockets. It works. This will also fit in the pocket. So if I had screws and whatnot in there, I could do that instead of just putting a bunch of screws in the pocket and eventually have them tear through it. It's a pretty good design. I'm going to make some changes to it. I'm going to have my gal pal Carla, who's making the caps, you guys remember, make some aprons here pretty soon. That's what we were supposed to be doing first, but we both got jazzed about the caps. She's kind of teaching herself how to do it because she hadn't made hats before. It's thick fabric. She got some new machines. She's going through a learning curve on that. I'm giving her all the time in the world. So I got the cross brace on the back. These should be pinned together. I should make a little patch of leather with slots in it to orient those straps to keep them in line, because it does get, if I bend over, it wants to fall. See that? And that's a little bit of a bummer. I got to go do this all the time. So I do need to make that. But these might be available for sale here pretty soon. If I can get her to make me a bunch of them. I'll let you guys know. You know, you're not going to be cheap. But that's it. I just wanted to show you that. But the reason I'm doing this video really is just because I had more than one question. I had a couple emails on this Occidental kit. And you could see the weight here. I mean, yeah, this is no joke here. It's not any fun to be wearing these all day. But if you have a comfortable setup, it does make wearing this much weight a lot more enjoyable. You do need this strap here. So that's it. Quick video for you. Shorter than the one I did earlier because I started talking about my life in construction and everything else, and you guys didn't need to hear all that. I'm just showing you the back right now so you can see. I'm just going to move around slowly so you can get a look at how the setup is. Again, I don't have everything in here. I got a pair of sheet metal shears here, tin snips. Really not much else in here. I threw a wrench in here just for the heck of it. It's not really a cat's paw. This is more a modern version of a cat's paw for more like finish nails. Got my old vintage rocket hammer here. Couple chisels in here. Dikes, most important tool. I use these all the time. Lineman's pliers. These are great. They're also dirty. A bunch of muck in them. I use these for all sorts of things. And again, the square pencils, mat knife. That's it, you know. Pretty simple, straightforward, common sense stuff. This is not a big deal. But it is a cool rig. It's a cool looking rig, and I guess it's not as commonly known about. You don't see a lot of them, and I guess the reason you don't see a lot of them is because they cost a lot of money. Again, some of you are watching this, you weren't even born when I bought this thing. It's old, and that's, you know, the only reason I got it. I could not afford, well, I could afford it, I suppose. If I really wanted one of these setups bad enough, I would just save my money, maybe sell something, and buy the rig. Aside from the high cost of it, I can absolutely recommend it. That's all I can tell you. Keep this in mind. You should have extrapolated this already. It's over 25 years old, close to 30 years old, and look how well it's holding up. After years of use, it's still working. And these little fixes I just did, I could have done them a long time ago. So it's serviceable. There's going to be some other stuff I do to it. And maybe this will be another thing on the channel from time to time. Just like this little patch I put on there with the logo that I burnt in. I think that's kind of cool. Makes it totally unique. And it makes it mine. So that's it. You guys have a great day. Thanks for being here. Sorry for the tease. You know, so those of you that watched the other video. I've done this before. I've posted a video. Then I take it down. I redo it. And then in the interim, I'm getting all these messages from people like, "Where's the video? I saw the video," because they think something bad happened, like I said something wrong or something, or somebody flagged it or something. No, 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 it's me. I went home for lunch. I looked at it, and I was unimpressed. It was horrible. It didn't represent it wasn't good enough for you. I care about you guys. I looked at it, I was like, that's garbage. Like, people should literally unsubscribe from my page if I don't redo this video. You know, you deserve better. So that's why I redid it. That's it for now. Have a great day. Again, be kind to one another. I'll catch you all in the next one. I got to get back to work.